Hey, what's up? On this episode of Film Fan, I'm going to simply talk about the difference between physical media and streaming media. I had a conversation with a friend of mine today talking about film and talking about our love for physical media ever since, Laserdisc and DVD and Blu-ray and blah, 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 and 4K stuff. So figured we get into a quick conversation here on the channel where I talk about movies. Let's do it on Film Fan. Hey, welcome to Film Fan, my channel where I discuss all things film and film related. So if that is also your thing, go ahead and hit the subscribe button if you've not done so already, along with the notification bell so you know when I put up new content. So as I said in the intro, I was talking to a friend of mine. We were talking about discs and different movies and things that are coming out. I think we were talking about Tenet, which is coming out December 15th. That's what sparked the conversation, and we talked about that. And he also got a new TV, so we were just talking about media and all sorts of stuff. So got to a conversation about, owning movies versus actually streaming. Now, a lot of these services, Disney Plus, Netflix, and all of these different services, Amazon, are offering 4K content. Disney's offering, Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos, a lot of the Star Wars content, which looks incredible. So streaming's come a long way, and it's definitely a convenience factor. So when we were having this conversation today, we both agreed on the idea that streaming has its place. So there are movies that I can watch. For example, Intolerable Cruelty comes on with George Clooney and Catherine Zeta-Jones, a Coen Brothers romantic comedy. If that's streaming, I don't actually need to own that in 4K, Dolby Atmos, Dolby Vision picture. It's not going to make that much of a difference to me. It is one of my favorite romantic comedies, and I will get to that eventually. But I'm just using that for an example here. But certain films don't require me. I won't go the distance of having to have it in a pristine video transfer and pristine audio for my home theater system. So, but in addition to that, I'm also a collector. I like to own the physical disc. One of the things that's happened through time, and I'm going to get on a slight tangent here talking about just going into like music and history of purchasing things. Now when I go and I want an album or I want something, I go on a Tidal or my Spotify account, whichever, and I just go ahead and click a button and there it is, right? Whereas previously, and the older people will understand this, not even that old, we're talking about 10 years ago, you wanted a disc, you would go out and physically purchase something. You'd go to a store, you'd actually bring it, you'd rip the plastic off, you'd actually have a physical disc. And that often had artwork. Now, if I go way back, and now I am talking to the older people, you've got albums and you have, album artwork, and it opens up and it's all there. And the sleeve has all these, notes and stuff, and liner notes and pictures. And some of them are more special than others, and the artwork and such. So that was like a tangible feeling that actually meant something. It's the same way with disc. Now, I remember I was a very early adapter of DVD. When DVDs came out, I remember it was myself and Spike Lee were the only two who owned DVD players in my neighborhood in Brooklyn, in Fort Greene. And the guy in the video store there, it was called Video Basket. It was like this tiny little video store that had VHS for rent. And I would always go in there and I was like, "Did you get DVDs yet to rent?" And he was like, "No, you and Spike are the only ones to have." Anyway, it's kind of funny. I was at the very beginning, I was very into DVD. And I remember when all the studios jumped in and you couldn't get certain movies because, Fox and Paramount hadn't really joined and no one was really sure where DVD was going to go at that point. But through the years, it actually, turned into what it is. So I've always been someone who liked to actually have a disc in hand, like actually have the movie and own it and collect it and get the special editions of things. Like, for example, this is the DVD version of Reservoir Dogs, Tarantino's first film. This is the special edition. You could have gotten it with the different characters, Mr. Pink, Mr. Brown, Mr. Black, Mr. Orange. I got the one with Mr. Pink, of course, because he's the man, Steve Buscemi. And I just love stuff like this, just the actual having this sort of memorabilia and these things. So I've always been into having this in my collection. So I've got a shit ton of DVDs and Blu-rays and things that mean something to me. I mean, this is the one from Fight Club. David Fincher's film, and this is kind of cool. This has, it opens up and it's got all the, soap and all this stuff in it with Ed Norton and Brad Pitt. And so I love stuff like that. Seven, which I reviewed on this channel, was my first film review, has an incredible disc from New Line Cinema. So it like opens up, and these are John Doe's, like this is John Doe's notebook, and you've got all this stuff on the inside. So I really love stuff like this. And Criterion Collection releases really special discs, and they have great packaging. So I'm into actually owning it. Now, beyond just owning physical media and having it and keeping a collection and keeping shelves and boxes somewhere of actual movies, it's the quality question, right? People will usually ask, well, what's the difference between, streaming a 4K movie on Netflix versus, okay, you've got a 4K disc at home. The difference really comes down to size and information and the way it's streamed and how many megabytes per second, a streaming service can actually handle, what information it can handle when streaming at that particular rate versus what you have when you have an actual Blu-ray player playing the same, 4K content. It's much greater. You have much more information in an actual physical disc, so you're going to get a better image. Always. Same thing with audio. The audio is going to be streamed. If you're streaming audio through your television, you're going to get a certain amount of minutes, megabytes per second that are going to be streamed in terms of the audio information. And it might be fine on a regular TV if you're just watching through a regular speaker system. But if you actually have like a really crazy sound bar, you've got a receiver, you've got everything connected through 5.1, 7.1, 9, you've got Dolby Atmos surround sound setup, then you're going to want to take advantage of the actual physical media because you're going to get much better audio. So that's my take on that. Now, if you are a streaming media fan and you're like really big on that, then let me know in the comments below what you think about that. If you're a person who collects and you're into your collection as much as I am, and like one day you're going to be that old guy who's got a shit ton of this old stuff laying around, my grandkids are going to be like, what's that? And I'm like, that's Granddad's Reservoir Dogs. Don't touch it. I'm that guy. All right. Collecting dust. My wife thinks it's nuts. I've got tons and boxes full of DVDs and Blu-rays and all that stuff. And it just keeps adding up. So anyway, quick discussion, nothing serious here. Just wanted to talk about this streaming versus the actual physical media thing in case some of you were actually wondering about that and didn't know what the difference was, or if you were on the fence, whatever. So yeah, streaming is good for like your television shows and random content here and there, things that don't matter in terms of visual quality and audio quality. But if you're watching something like, let's say, The Matrix, let me just get into the classic, video reference film. If you're watching something like The Matrix in 4K and you've got a decent setup, like I watch my films on an LG OLED television, which is just pristine picture, and you're watching in Dolby Vision, you're watching it with Dolby Atmos surround sound, you've got that whole setup, then you're going to prefer physical media. You're going to want to buy actual discs as opposed to streaming something like The Matrix. It's just the way it is. So, and again, it depends on how much of a cinema person you are and how serious you are with your content and how serious you are with actually watching it. So for people like me, the people who are just like, hey, I need to see everything. The black's got to be black. Everything's got to be really clean. And the sound, I got to hear shit whizzing over my head and all that stuff. Better off with physical media. If you agree with me on that, go ahead and let me know in the comments. If you disagree, let me know in the comments. Let me know your take on it. Let me know your setup. Let me know if you're a physical media fan or whatever. And if you like this video, definitely hit that like button. I appreciate it. And hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And I will see you on the next Film Fan.